Hello and welcome to Hockey Hypothetical, serious answers to silly questions. Each episode we will be taking preposterous scenarios that we've made up from the world of hockey and trying to produce genuine responses to the what-if questions. My name is Jonathan Fernley, I'm here with Stephen Dowson, and Douse, here's our first Hockey Hypothetical. Which country that currently isn't very good at ice hockey would be the best if it really started to take it seriously?
Well, that's a loaded question, isn't it? I think it's entirely depends on what you mean by that doesn't take it very seriously. Because... Okay,
I mean, you've got a lot of countries who play ice hockey, but they're not trying to be world champions. You've got teams at the bottom level of the EIHL.
Yeah.
They don't have ambitions to play at the top level.
Yeah.
But if one of them suddenly changed their mind, who's most likely to make it?
I'll tell you what immediately came to mind when we started this, actually. The moment you asked me the question, the first nation that always comes to mind, that when they take a sport seriously, they always end up just bossing it. And that is Australia. Australia have such a record of just being naturally good at sport that when they want to be good at one, and I know there's a league down there, and I know obviously weather conditions and all the rest of it make hockey less appealing than other sports down there. But I think if Australia decided to properly take hockey seriously, especially when you look at physique, you know, there's a certain type of physique for a hockey player, isn't there? And I think the closest physique-wise you can get to a hockey player is an Australian rules footballer. You know, somebody who's lean, but strong, but quick. You know, all those little elements. I think the natural tools are there for Australia to become a real dominant force in hockey if it wanted to. And they just have previous, don't they? You know, they have a fan base that'll cheer on anything. You know, as long as there's a field and there's a beer. You know, we'll just say, well, the field's inside. Come grab a beer.
It's going to take a change of culture, though, for Australia to go from being such an outdoor nation to wanting to actively be good at something indoors.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think there's definitely then a market when you have just an outdoor culture, because they have winters too, you know, just not the kind that we would want them to have. You know, they have very nice winters as well as very, very good summers. But there will be a market for... I mean, I think that's the obvious reason why Australia haven't taken ice hockey seriously, because, you know, why would you want to be indoors? You live in Australia. But if you were to talk about if they all woke up tomorrow and said, we're going to be great at ice hockey, I think they are the best nation equipped to do so. And especially when you look at sports infrastructure and funding, I think they're right there.
Australia have already had their first sort of, you know, Australian-born, or well, no, actually he was Welsh-born, wasn't he? But proper Australian drafted to the NHL a few years ago.
Yes.
So Nathan Walker is their Liam Kirk, essentially.
Yeah.
I'm not aware that has resulted in a massive boom in Aussie hockey.
No. I mean, they have a good summer, you know, they have a good summer league down there. I mean, we'd call it a summer league. They call it a winter league, obviously, you know. Players go down there and play and make some money. But I think I think the way the hypothetical's being phrased, it's the nation would have to, like, collectively wake up and go, yes, we're doing that, so let's do it. Does that make sense? And I think Australia is probably the best place to do that. The only other one you could probably look at is maybe China.
Well, this was the thing. I was just looking at how Australia did in the IIHF Championships last year.
Oh, yeah?
They were in Division 2, Group A.
Okay.
Netherlands were promoted. Australia was second.
Oh, wow.
And then also in that division, Serbia were third and China were fourth.
Yeah.
Belgium fifth and Israel relegated in sixth.
Oh.
So Australia and China currently playing at the same level.
Yeah. And then... Because, I mean, obviously with China, you're just talking by sheer population. You should be able to find 24 lads who can knock a puck about, you know, to make a squad. But it's I still think it suits Australia better than China. simply because of the infrastructure that's already there. Do you know what I mean? Simply because of their passion for sport. Like I say, there's a passion for sport in China, and they've even played haven't they played NHL games out there, haven't they, to try and boost the popularity? I mean, everybody's played a game out in China now, trying to boost the popularity, because there's such a huge market. It's silly not to.
Can I just also apologise earlier for my lack of recognising a country's three-letter symbol? Not Israel, Iceland. Iceland with a team. Now, there's also another team that they should be better. Look at what the funding they've put into their football and the results it's had. They decided 10 years ago, we need to be better at international sport.
Yeah.
Let's build a whole load of football facilities, fund our coaches. And it's resulted in a Euros and a run to the quarterfinals plus a World Cup appearance. If you could do the same in hockey, you'd surely be able to leap up a couple of divisions.
I think so. Again, I think what you're going to have a problem there is just pure resource. Again, I mean, we're talking about a nation that has to build artificial football pitches because of how hard it is to build anything out there. I think they could become a very good hockey nation, and if Mighty Ducks 2 has told me anything, is they could be quite a fearful one. They could be quite evil in their hockey, so maybe we don't want them to get better. But I think a nation like Iceland has to focus on a sport. They've said football is it. When they had the massive recession and they made cuts, but and you were telling me this, they kept the football funding because they thought it was important, because that was the one thing they were trying to do. The Dutch would be a decent one as well, because the Dutch have got this weird ability to be good at any sport they turn their hand at. There's always
long track speed skating in the Winter Olympics is all theirs.
Yeah, and why? Do you know what I mean? There's no natural reason for that to be, other than, let's have a go at it. Oh, great, we're world champions at it. Fantastic, great. And that just seems to be the Dutch way. Am I right in thinking the women's disability tennis champion is undefeated for like 10 years or something? It's an outrageous number, and she's Dutch. And they just went, oh, well, we'll be great at that too, And
Let me throw some names at you from the bottom level of IIHF competition.
Okay.
So we're going way, way, way down here.
All right.
So we're into Division 3 qualification. Only 4 teams in it.
Oh, wow.
So you're 4 teams that took part in the bottom level of international ice hockey this year. Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Okay.
Kuwait, yeah.
Wow.
The UAE.
Okay, that makes some sense.
Yeah, and the UAE stands out. Could an oil-rich Middle Eastern state just decide, well, we can afford to build a rink, we can probably afford to set up a league, bring some players over, get them some passports.
Well, that's what they're trying to do, isn't it?
Until, the sort of hockey culture really takes hold and they've got more homegrown players. Maybe. Could you fast-track it in the Middle East? The other team, by the way, is Turkmenistan.
Had to ask.
Now, anyone with access to a map knows that Turkmenistan has a border with Kazakhstan, and they have got hockey culture, and they have got hockey tradition.
Yeah.
But the other stands in the area, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, don't really. So, could the next-door neighbours just suddenly decide, actually, we want to be good at what they're good at?
Well, they're too busy wrestling, aren't they, in those nations? My lack of stand knowledge is definitely coming through there. I think UAE is an interesting one, because I've always had the impression, and this may be a bad impression, but the UAE want to be good at sports, but not with any kind of human investment. Do you see what I mean? They want to have a brilliant league. Well, we'll just buy all the best players. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, we've seen it with Bahraini athletes that suddenly prop up and you're thinking, hang on, didn't you used to race for Kenya?
Yeah, it's that kind of thing. They would like the success, but with none of the kind of, a success that can be bought. So what you might find is a bunch of very Canadian and American-sounding players find out that their great-grandfather, twice removed, once met a guy in the UAE, and he's now got a shiny passport. And I don't think that would answer the hypothetical in the way that I think we want. Here's a wild card for you, actually. Okay. The answer's GB, isn't it? The answer's
that's the thing. I was then looking at the teams at the top, thinking which teams at the top, and they're proper hockey nations, but aren't as good as they should be. And GB does stand out as one. Yeah. Poland stands out as another.
Yeah.
Why are Poland not better at hockey?
I think Poland should be better at all sports. And anybody from Poland will tell you that. But I think they've got an infrastructure problem in developing sport and developing talent. But also, and the reason why I say GB above Poland, because there is still a hockey culture in Poland. People are aware of it. They are surrounded by nations who play it. It's pretty ingrained there. They just never seem to be, because they never seem to get invested in any sport in Poland. From what I see, again, these are massive generalizations, but when you consider that GB are in the top group of international ice hockey, could you even say it was the fifth or sixth largest sport in this country? I mean, we've got football, cricket, rugby union, rugby league. So there's your four. And then you're looking at basketball having a decent shout, American football having a decent shout. Then you've got ice hockey. Then you've got netball in there somewhere. You've got to have horse riding in there somewhere. There's a really strong argument to say it's not even in the top five. And yet, we're producing. Yeah,
so I was just gonna jump in there. You've got to give ice hockey in this country credit for the attendances. Our attendances completely swamp basketball.
That's true.
But because of this sort of, basketball is a huge sport in PE, it's played by a lot of people.
Yeah.
More people are probably aware culturally of basketball
I didn't even mention
than they
tennis.
Are of ice hockey.
I didn't even mention tennis,
Yeah, I think individual sports are perhaps different from team sports, but yeah, there's still many more team sports that are way ahead of hockey in, the UK's consciousness.
Mm. And yet we've been able to produce amazing talent and amazing players. And I know there's a reason for that. We've kind of focused our training model now is on the Danish model. Because Denmark I think they have 8 rinks, or it is a very, very small number. And they've managed to produce talent that's played in the NHL. And what they do is they've become amazingly good at talent identification. And if you go down to any of the youth hockey coaching sessions in the UK, this is the model they've adopted. Identify talent as early as you can and get them fast-tracked onto more advanced courses and really focus in on, a few players. I mean, everybody learning and everybody growing, but understanding that if you've got a good player early, focusing on that talent as soon as possible. Because that's what they've done in Denmark. And like I say, they've got players in the National League. And I think that's what we're starting to do here. But I think if we, imagine if hockey was like the third biggest sport in this country. Well, logic dictates, we'd be amazing at it, Because if we can put together a great side in its current format, imagine if everybody knew about it.
Okay, let's finish this off by going completely left field and playing the stereotype game.
Oh no.
Let's pick a country that doesn't play ice hockey.
Right.
I'll throw you one.
Okay.
Who's beating Argentina?
Brazil, probably, knowing the history between the two.
Nah, Brazil are too lightweight.
Yeah.
Argentina will just rough them up.
Yeah, you think so?
You imagine Argentinian centre-halves as enforcers.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, okay, I go with that. I think it would be a natural fit for some of their footballers, actually. Argentina.
Stay in South America. Luis Suarez, what a rink rat.
Yeah, I think he'd be pretty good. I mean, probably the only counter to that one is, there is some South American rugby, and they haven't quite, they haven't quite been able to elevate themselves further than probably the 7th rugby nation in the world. Do you know what I mean?
Argentina have had a couple of World Cup semi-finals to their name. Yeah,
that's true, but maybe it's an interesting one. I think South America is an untapped resource, in hockey. I think most of the Southern Equator is an untapped resource for hockey. full stop. You don't really hear about